Alrighty, my name is Nathaniel, and I did my STP at Mecca, which is the Maine College of Art, and the studio at Portland, which is a recording studio. This is a picture of the studio in Mecca. I was there pretty much on and off for the 2 weeks. I was doing my STP with my friend Steve Drown, who's the director of music at Mecca, and he works in the studio in Portland too, which is also a recording studio, as an audio engineer. And this is Steve and the studio in Portland, which I was also in. We went in between them, sometimes even the same day, because they're like a block apart from each other. I wanted to do this for my STP because I want to major in music production. I also really enjoy music, and I wanted to learn more about what an audio engineer is like. The music I do like music production stuff, but it's all just like in my room on my laptop. It's a lot of electronic stuff. And what Steve does is more like audio recording, so I was interested in seeing like what that side of the field is like. My level of familiarity, I've taken a recording class with Steve, so I already had a basic knowledge of what the recording process is like. I've built this recording studio in CEHS, so once again, I did kind of have an idea of what I was doing. I have a studio. And this is kind of a cool picture of the board at Mecca, which even though it looks really cool, is actually really terrible because it's new and it doesn't work with anything. It has terrible compatibility issues. Cool. Duties at the job site. For the first day, we spent like 8 hours cleaning out old computers, like deleting files that were unnecessary, and just getting them ready for the next incoming class next year at Mecca. I did get to do some mixing work for Steve. There was a group that had come in a week or two before. There's a place, I think in Yarmouth, called 317, and they teach people how to play bluegrass music. So a band made up of people 65 and older had come in and record, and they had all been playing bluegrass for like 2 years. So it was really funny, like all these old guys playing bluegrass. And I got to mix their projects, which were pretty cool, because I don't think if I did my STP with anyone else, they would have let me like touch any of that stuff. That was fun. But a lot of what I did was just watching Steve do work, which was cool because I definitely learned things, but it also got very boring because I would sit there for hours just watching him on the computer. Here's a little recording of what I was mixing. Sound's not on.
Oh, yeah, we need speakers. Yeah, we don't have speakers that work on your computer.
Okay. Shreds again. That's really weird. I don't know.
Don't worry about it. Don't worry about it.
This was another, yeah. One of the days, Steve had put together a practice for this guy, which you can't really see him too well because I wasn't sure how okay he was with me videoing him, so I kind of tried to hide my camera. But he's a pretty well-known jazz guitarist called Michael Gregory Jackson. He tours around like Denmark and stuff, and he was amazing. But Steve is friends with him and had arranged for him to come and spend like a couple days in Portland to play with some other like Portland musicians. So I sat in on one of their like rehearsals for like an hour. This is another video just kind of because he was an amazing player. It was really cool to meet him, but again, I can't really show the video, which is unfortunate. That was one of the days. That's what we did. There we go. So some challenges, it could get very boring sometimes, especially on that first day when we really didn't do anything. Another challenge was not knowing what hours I was working. Steve never told me like anything. Like he would tell me that when I left, when to come into work the next day, and then he wouldn't tell me when I would get out. So like if I had anything else to do, I really couldn't do it until after 5, because that's when I knew I was probably gonna get out. But sometimes I would get out at like 1 o'clock and have like hours before I had to, you know, do something else, which is cool, but it was kind of stressful not knowing what I was doing. Also, parking in Portland is a lot harder than you would think, especially when you have to do it every day for 2 weeks. I ended up spending $36 the first day when I parked because I didn't know where to park, and it was terrible. But yeah, I smartened up after that, and I found some secret spots in Portland. But yeah, it's definitely a challenge, because especially if you park on the street, you can only park there for 2 hours, and then you have to move your car. So that was hard. Oh, and this was another video. A couple times, Steve, this is kind of what was most boring, I guess, besides the computer, was Steve had recorded a guy. I was just doing this thing again. Yeah, just unplug it. Steve, I think back in 2003 and before, had recorded this guy named Al Gardner, who was an oud player, which is a Middle Eastern instrument. He's from Armenia, and had done a bunch of like records with him. And Al had died a couple years ago, and Steve was tasked with putting together one final collection based on Al's, I think, like final performance that he did. So it was cool, but Steve was really just going through like files and files of recordings from tape from back in 2003 of like Middle Eastern music, and it was cool for like the first 5 minutes, but after like hearing the oud solo for like an hour, it gets really boring. So that was an example of the boringness of it. There we go. What I learned from mixing and watching Steve mix, because that's most of the actual audio work that we did during the week. I learned some tips on like how to mix better, specifically with vocals and with different leveling, and how he would like split up. Like he would have one recording of, say, someone's vocal, and he would chop it up into like 5 different recordings, and depending on how loud they were singing, he would turn just those 5 recordings down, which is something that I had never really done before, because I didn't think it was something that was like okay to do, but it turns out it is. I also learned that not all projects are weighed the same. For instance, like I think part of the reason he let me mix the 317 stuff, the bluegrass stuff, is because he didn't want to, because it wasn't that important to him, and he wasn't worried about getting the best like Grammy, award-winning recording ever, because it's for a bunch of people. So what I learned from that is that, if you're doing something, just make it good enough for the people who are receiving it. You don't need to make everything the best you can possibly be. I also learned the importance of breaks, because for whatever reason Steve would not take breaks. He would like eat his lunch and do work, which is cool, but like being, these are silent and dark rooms, like in basements. So being there like 8 hours a day, it got kind of crazy the first week. I would definitely get stir crazy. So if I ever do this, I'm definitely going to need to take breaks, go outside, remind myself that there is actually a sun. I also learned that musicians are never on time, including Steve, which was funny. Okay. What I learned about myself. I learned that you don't have to do one thing. 'Cause I have a pretty good idea of what I want to do, but I also have many different like projects and things that I would like to do, as an adult. And Steve had spent, years being an engineer, recording engineer in Boston, and then he had moved up here and spent years doing that here. And now his full-time job is being the director of music at Mecca, but he's still part-time doing stuff for the studio and recording people. So I learned that you don't have to like go to college, then get a job after college and have that job, for 50 years, 25 years. You can do whatever you want, basically, which I kind of like. I also learned that I definitely don't want to just be an audio engineer, just record other people, just mix, because that's just not really what I was into. And I kind of knew that before, but this definitely reinforced it. I also learned that I know more about music production than I previously thought, especially some of the stuff that like I showed him some of my projects and he was like, this is cool, but you should simplify it because you don't need all this. And I was like, oh, sweet. So that was kind of cool. That's it.
Questions?
So basically, yeah,
Basically what, Leah?
I was talking to Sam.
No questions? Nate, what instruments do you play?
I play sax.